Hello and welcome to my bathroom and also my channel. For you, this is day one being in my bathroom, and it might even be day one of you being on my channel. So if this is the first time you've seen me, hi, my name is Melissa, but if you've been following along with this channel, then you already know that you can call me Missy. Day one, day four, basically this haunted expression on my face is because of the fact that this is the fourth day of me being here in my bathroom, and as you can see behind me, it is a construction zone. Let me show you what's going on here. Ta-da! It's a shower. My beloved spouse and I together built these walls, and then we covered them in tile. And now you can see there's another wall, and I kind of actually really love this color, but it's going away. It's mosaic time. The first step for me right now, I think, is just going to be to draw on the wall what I want to mosaic on here, and then we'll go from there. So let's do it.
I had already done just a tiny bit of research into the general growing patterns of a cherry tree and then drawn up a little example in my booklet there. So I was trying to kind of stick to what I observed while still trying to make it look nice on my wall.
Oh, the eraser matches my outfit. Now I have all my branches drawn. It's a bit of a mess because erasing wasn't working so well. Plus I was impatient, the opposite of patient. So I have my branches down. The next part, I need to decide where to put my snake because of course there's a snake. Duh. So, snake.
So actually giving it some thought made me feel more unsure, and I needed to test it out on the wall.
So I actually went and got some chalk to put in the snake someplace. So we'll see how I like it.
An added benefit of using the chalk meant that I could not only do an outline of the snake, but kind of fill it in with the chalk as well. The idea was for the snake to be white, which was basically the color of the chalk, and that helped with the visualization as well. But snakes are a lot of fun because of their little wrappy, twisty, noodly nature. So I enjoyed this.
This one here, so this one's the tail and it wraps around, and then the head comes around the front there.
Ooh, that's cool design.
And then there's this one, the tail kind of drops and then it hangs a little and then it wraps around and then the head's over here.
This one's my favorite.
That one's your favorite?
Mm-hmm.
This one has been declared a favorite, so I will erase the others.
The chalk did come off pretty easily, though it did want to leave a bit of residue. I just had to rub over it a few times with my damp cloth. But because it erased easily, I needed to also trace around the outline of our chosen snake. With the snickety snack all sketched out, it was time to add some greenery to the tree, and I do think that I have hinted at, but I haven't actually gone over what my inspiration, my plans are for this mosaic. So here it goes. The idea is to have a tree with beautiful pink cherry blossoms all over it and just obviously a snake hanging out in it.
So now I have all of the positions of where I want my cherry blossoms and my leaves to live. I'm going to start drawing those onto these tiles. You can't see it in this lighting very well, but they're just a very soft baby pink. You still can't see it very well in the lighting. Not in the camera lighting, I can see it. So I think I need to cut out some flowers. I need to cut out some, what's the word? Cut some leaves. And then I can get to work and start laying some of these up onto my wall. So I'm gonna start drawing some flowers on here and we'll go from there.
Hey you, you're already wearing goggles. Yeah, you only need one pair. Anyways, once I was properly attired, I was ready to start cutting out flowers. I laid them out in a pentagon pattern because after looking at some cherry blossoms, I determined that they have 5 petals on average. But I didn't want to waste tile, so I used the other edges to be kind of sideways facing flowers so that we have a couple different perspectives on our flowers, as well as some of those end pieces could then be turned into little flower buds. And at this point, I'm realizing that I don't think that at any point of this video, I have actually talked about my intentions for this mural. I have heavily hinted at it. So here it is. It is going to be a cherry blossom tree with a snake hanging out in it. So there will be flowers, there will be leaves, there will be branches, all that good stuff. After cutting out all of the blossoms from one tile, I was able to use those cut out blossoms as a template to draw blossoms on all the rest of my tiles. It wasn't always perfect and they didn't all match precisely, but that's okay because all of the cherry blossoms are going to be a little bit different in their shapes and size. And that's just how nature works. So as you can see, my cutting process is that I cut out the overall shapes first, and then I cut out the little notches to differentiate between flower petals. And then I just kind of used the edge of my Dremel to shape up some of the corners, round them out a little bit, make it feel a little more organic, a little less geometric. So cut, shape, rinse, repeat.
Today I need to continue cutting tile, but it is rainy outside, so I made a little corner of my house where I can work without getting dust in everyone's way. So here we go. Here's my little workstation. So let's do it.
You can kind of tell from my surroundings, this was a very dusty job. So the sheet of plastic helped a lot in keeping the dust from getting all over my house.
A lot of things happened yesterday that I did not get on camera, mostly due to storage issues, but also partially due to the fact that I've just been feverishly trying to get this done this weekend. So, to catch you up on a few things, we started putting tile on the wall, some flowers, some bark. Things are progressing. Also, my trusty Dremel died. But this was a move forward, grieve later kind of situation. So we're gonna have to lay that to rest in a bit. We did replace it, and we are also replacing the little Dremel bit that we are using to cut our flowers with, partially because it's getting dull. And I found another stack of pink that I have not yet cut out. So we're gonna need to cut those out. We're going to need to continue with all of this nonsense, and it's a lot, so let's get to work. We are having more Dremel drama. So while my partner goes and tries to figure that out, I am going to be just making a straight line at the edge of this mural. It's going to be a bit of a border in the same tile color as you can see the rest of the shower is made in. And this one just needs to be level, right, not level, what's the word? Square, maybe square is the word. Anyways, so I'm just gonna go straight up, and I also have this edging piece that is going to make it look nice and clean in the transition from shower to sheetrock, and we commence from thence. So let's get to it.
All right, while I'm working on that, let me tell you all about my Dremel drama. I believe that the fine tile dust in that enclosed workspace got into the gears or whatever of my tool and broke it. So as I said, my partner went and he got another Dremel tool and it did not work. I suspect that it had been returned to the Home Depot and then was just placed back on the shelves. So he ended up going back to the store again. He just returned the Dremel, ended up getting some other brand of rotary tool. And the nice thing was that this tool came with an extender so that we could put the machine on the outside of the plastic walls and then keep using the tool inside so it wouldn't get gunked up with any more of the dust. So with that solution, we were able to forge forward. Me and my partner took turns with who was laying tile and who was cutting tile because both were exhausting in different ways. This is very nearly my first experience with doing mosaic. I did a whole bunch of little mosaic murals on concrete pillars for my parents. And when I did that mosaic, all I did was take tiles and smash them with a hammer. And then I was able to just carefully select which pieces would work with the designs that I had penciled in on the pillars. Those designs were a lot larger than life, and that process lent itself well to the randomness of just smashed up tile. For this project, I wanted some finer detail without having too many tiny smashed up pieces because I didn't know how well small pieces would adhere to the wall.
Hi, we're here again, and I am putting on the rest of these flowers. Then I'm going to want to cut some leaves out of my green material, and then I'll be ready to do all the rest of the tree branches because some of these flowers are covering up bits of the tree branches. And then I can finish putting in my blue background pieces, and then we'll be ready to grout, which makes it sound like we're so close, but all of those things are gonna take so long, so let's get to it.
So while I had penciled in where approximately I wanted all of the pieces to go, I was still kind of eyeballing it as I went because I wasn't sure how many flowers I would have, whether I would have enough.
Okay, all of my flowers that I have cut out are up on the wall. Next, leaves. I have to cut them out because we tried breaking them so that we could sort of piece them together, but we weren't getting enough in the sort of shapes that we would need in order to make some nice leaves. So cutting out leaves next. So today I have here some leaf shapes that I've cut out and are now ready to be glued to the wall, mortared. And then I have these leaf shapes that have been cut out but they need to be refined. They need their rough edges to be roughified. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna start with the gluing. That rhymed. And then we're going to move on to getting dusty and crusty again. My skin on my face is so dry just because this dust soaks it up. And you see that most of my face is covered when I do it. Well, did you see that? I don't know. I have glasses on and I have the mask on. And so like, and then my forehead is partially covered. I don't know. So now we know the plan. Let's execute. What's that? I forgot to put this piece up. I have it right here, putting it up now.
I had a few different colors of greens, which I wanted to scatter throughout the entire mosaic. And I wanted to cluster things without leaving too large of gaps. So actually the placement of pretty much every piece of a mosaic requires quite a bit of turning and finessing and thought. And it's exhausting physically and also mentally. And that's probably why I seemed a little loopy at the beginning of this section.
See this dust? It's everywhere. I don't think it's good for the camera. After getting the leaves up on the tree, I have been working on the rest of the leaves. Here's what I have smoothed out. Here's what has yet to be smoothed out. This might be enough. So I think what I might do is just apply these to the wall and see how I feel after that. Because I really want to get this done, partly, but that's the plan right now. Now that I have all the leaves and flowers that I want, I can go in and add the branches. I think a lot of them I'm going to cut out so they fit in nicely, especially for these smaller, thinner branches, and then for the larger ones I'll piece together like I did for the trunk. So that's the next step.
Again, for the tree trunk, a lot of the fatter bits I could piece together by smashing, but for a lot of the thinner branches, it just wasn't smashing that way, so I had to have them cut out. So I went in and drew out some shapes that my partner could cut out while I kept piecing.
Here is where we're ending things for today. I added some more of this blue background. We need a lot more branch put in, but I'm happy with how it's looking so far. I'm feeling optimistic. So far, I've been kind of on the fence about how I think it's going to turn out, but seeing some of this makes me feel like it could be good. It could be good. Part of me thinks it sounds really crazy to think about it that way, because if I'm thinking that it's going to be awful, why do I keep going? Why not take it all off and then just do something really plain and easy? But you really never know until you get to the end of a project how it's going to turn out. So we're still not entirely sure, but I'm feeling a lot more optimistic.
Okay, full disclosure, the time that this photo montage took, I'm not sure. It could have been a few days. Time had lost all meaning.
Okay, so here I've got a space that I can fill in with a long piece. It looks like, and I'm just kind of eyeballing some of these grout lines. Here we go. It looks like it runs into this leaf here, so I'm going to want to cut it off at that point and give it a little room over here. It's a little bit easier when I'm on top of it instead of looking up at it. But I'm just kind of approximating where I need to cut it. And I can use Sharpie on these because, as you can see, it just rubs right off of that smooth surface.
Yeah, at this point, I thought to film a little bit of what my process was in filling in the blue behind all the flowers and around all of the branches. Wherever I could, I used full or partially full pieces of the tile. And wherever I couldn't, I used just pieces that I had smashed up with a hammer. But I didn't use my rotary tool for cutting up any of the background pieces. We were pretty tired of using that to cut tile, to be honest. And it just wasn't necessary at this point.
We are on our final little touch-up stretch of this project. Basically, all I need to do to make this shower a shower is put my fixtures on and give it a curtain rod, and then we're pretty much done. I did grout everything off camera. I did think about grabbing the camera and showing just grouting this side, but I grouted all of this first, which ended up being a mistake. I'll get into that. But I grouted all this first, and I realized that it was a very messy process, and if I were to have my camera, I would probably ruin it in some way, just turning it on or off or moving things around, just because of how messy my fingers would have been. And then I would have forgotten, of course, to take off my gloves before doing anything because I'm an idiot. But I didn't film everything. I did, however, grout this wall with black grout, and as you can see, this is not grouted with black grout. One of the things on the grout packaging for the black grout said that it might stain certain porous tiles and also other grout. So I was really worried while I was grouting this wall that I would get it all up in the grout on the floor and potentially even on the wall. I think we did a pretty good job of keeping it off of all of those surfaces. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of proud of that. Another thing that happened though, as I was grouting this, is that the black grout did stain all of the mortar that I got on the tiles, which I had planned to scrape the mortar off anyways, but it made it easier to see all of the mortar that was still stuck on these tiles. So today what I'm doing is taking the mortar off of the tiles. I'm gonna wear some safety glasses because some of these are higher. I don't want it dropping down on my face, but here we go, let's do it.
As you can see in some of these close-up shots, I did end up scratching some of the surfaces of some of this tile, and in some cases that actually The black grout filled in some of that and made it less noticeable on the brown and the green tile, but on the pink tile especially, and on the white tile, the scratches to the surface of the tile were stained black, and it drew attention to those scratches. So those are some imperfections that I wish weren't there, but I just kind of have to live with it. And with all the work that went into this, I'm kind of just happy to live with it.
That's it. That's the shower. We finished it. Woohoo! I'm so glad that it's done. Okay, full transparency. It has been a few months since this was completed. Nonetheless, I am extremely grateful whenever I take a shower in here to have something beautiful to look at while I am getting myself cleaned off. It is not perfect, and I really try my best not to focus on those parts of it that are not perfect. But I do still think that it's really beautiful despite all of the little imperfections. But I do stand behind the choice of the black grout though, because it makes it feel a little bit like stained glass, just a tiny bit, which is absolutely lovely, of course. And you know, the rest of the shower is here too. Woohoo! I did take all of my accoutrements off of the shelf. I can put them back on. Oh, this is a much more realistic view. That too, that's more realistic. I really don't feel like there's a whole lot more to say about this whole project. It was a lot. It was very stressful. Anyways, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you liked anything about that video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you'd like to see more of the shenanigans that I get up to, go and subscribe. And then we'll be able to see each other in the next video. Bye!